Product provided by Nintendo/Bergsala. The Legend of Zelda has done it all. From its humble Famicom disc beginnings, one thing has been clear. You play as Link. Well, that ends with the first female Nintendo Zelda director, Tomomi Sano, in charge of the Grezzo team. As in most of Echoes of Wisdom, you are Zelda, and Link is missing. So welcome to this review. Echoes of Wisdom's story immediately sets the right tone. Your first few moments are with Link, who is on his way to save Zelda. That victory, however, is rather short-lived. Not long after returning from these dire circumstances, the king plus a minister and general also get sucked into what are now referred to as the Rifts. Imposters take their place and suggest that Zelda is to blame for what is happening to the kingdom. To this end, an entity known as Tri teams up with the princess to enter the Rifts. We were engaged for significant stretches of time, with new interesting lore being presented as we continued. It is encouraging that Nintendo and Grezzo found a correct balance that gives this overhead style of entry 2 leaps forward. As we continued through the story, one thing is evidently clear. They have understood the criticism from the recent years. The story is so much more in center in this title. The implications made towards the further reaching ethos of The Legend of Zelda can't be understated. They openly discuss what Zelda's role could have been versus what it actually is. The interactions with the king, Impa, and the other supporting characters makes it feel like a unique experience. Tri is obviously the star of the show, basically filling the blanks because Zelda fills in Link's role and doesn't speak. It is clear that Tri doesn't understand human expressions particularly well, making for some really cute dialogue to boot. Any of the main clans have their own personality with interwoven dynamics. But with that said, the gameplay rules. Straight up, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is a best of both worlds scenario. You still get the fluidity and motion that you can expect from an overhead from a top-down Zelda game, but its overall mechanics are so different that there's nothing quite like it. Let's go over the game structure first, because that will likely raise the most questions. In all honesty, Echoes of Wisdom isn't that far from regular Zelda games in that sense. You have a world to explore, dungeons to master, and bosses to beat. Where the differences surface is how these dungeons are structured. That freedom being the brand new echoes, which are also the highlight in our eyes. The echoes allow you to take objects and monsters and let them loose in the landscape that you are creating. From placing crates, to creating paths forward, to throwing in monsters that do all the attacking or battling, with more than 100 elements to use as echoes. So, in other ways, you can combine and think out of the box in every way imaginable. While roaming through the kingdom of Hyrule, you will come across problems that Zelda can solve on her own. It goes without saying, this creates massive, and I mean massive, replay value to try multiple playthroughs in different ways. If you like to play Zelda more conventional, you will get more and more access to a sword fighter form later on in the game, where you can mimic the motions of Link. But there are definitely reasons for why this mechanic is in the game. The Link form can jump higher and make use of both a sword and bow to make some offensive plays. This is particularly useful during the boss battles, as your window of attacking the opponent is somewhat limited. You can get some stabs in and take down an enemy that much faster. Obviously, you don't have to use this form if you don't want to, though there are a few moments where you're forced to use it, namely to progress. Before we talk about that and the overall world building, let us still quickly touch on the movement of Zelda. While it isn't unlike how Link moves, there's certainly a different pace to it. She moves slower across the board and isn't able to jump quite as high. There are objects, costumes, and accessories that will elevate these concerns as you go through the motions. In addition, it is possible for you to get a horse if you want to go for that full-on open-world Zelda feel. Okay, maybe not during one of the few stealth sections, but you are then on high alert all the time anyway. Now, let's discuss how the game is structured as a whole, as The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom offers a proper open world, but for a 2D adventure. While top-down and forthcoming in the beginning, the game lets you lose relatively early on. There are objectives to follow and rifts to close, but the game isn't stopping you from going through the map. What you will quickly find, however, is that there are hurdles with how effectively you can use the echoes. And this is tied to Tri's triangle, as Echoes of Wisdom limits your usage in the beginning, making it not possible to overcome every conceivable obstacle. That being said, there's always a way of getting around this, and it turns out we're a bit devious as we went to the Goron city way too early, allowing us to head immediately into the rift when it popped up later on. With waypoints being available, you can quickly hop back and forth across the map. With this freedom, however, comes a bit of a concern. We wouldn't call it something to heavily knock the game for, but it is a side effect of its overall design. You see, there are some easy to miss spots if you don't go in a certain direction across the map. Hyrule Ranch, Horses, and Dampus Workshop for the automatons. Either of these locations aren't required to make any sort of progression, but you would be locking yourself out of gameplay features by not going there. Regardless, the objective markers do a reasonable job of guiding you towards the main rifts spread throughout the world. The player will immediately head into the next big story beat and talk with the tribe present. This is where you get introduced to the Still World, where the stolen portions of the world and its people are stuck in silence. Everything in this realm feels twisted and misplaced, making you feel like there's something more going on in the shadows. This is the place where you will go into dungeons, fight those larger-than-life bosses, and get to know more about the reasoning of Tri's existence. Those bosses, by the way, absolutely great, multi-layered and sharp on their feet. Next to the big rifts, there are smaller ones that serves as side quests. Speaking of that, there's a lot of side quests that further improve the overall experience, and many of them also include timed minigames. And of course, like in every Zelda game, there are collectathons. Fetch questing, yes, but with proper rewards. And this is the thing about Echoes of Wisdom, it is very rewarding. From a presentation standpoint, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom hits all of the right notes. It is clear that the engine used is updated from the Link's Awakening remake, enhanced with a bit more fluidity, allowing for madness on screen. While the frame rate isn't 100% steady, we're still talking about the Nintendo Switch, it is also barely noticeable in our eyes. Your mind focuses far more with what you do on the screen than how it looks. That being said, Echoes of Wisdom is quite colourful. The toy look does wonders in a new game, making the more traditional Zelda characters have more unique versions of themselves, especially the tribes that we haven't seen in 2D in Hyrule yet. In particular, we were really impressed with how the Zora tribes looked in this game. Both have a completely different way of life, but they are illustrated to absolute perfection. Their settlements were an equal reflection of that. My goodness, the title looks so pretty, especially in water areas, that it hurts. And the fact that we can go underwater, mwah. The soundtrack is equally nice. The typical Zelda-like tunes approach our eardrums and make every area feel like its own unique set piece. A fun rendition of the main theme plays as you begin your journey as Zelda, while the music in the Zora and Gerudo areas bring the right atmosphere to their respective territories. The Still World, on the other hand, is very airy, with unsettling electronic undertones, echoing to the grim reality that this place is. A lovely detail is that changing into the sword fighter form adds chiptune notes to the current music, giving it even more character in places. Maybe a little bit of a feel that you play as Link at this point in the game. It is a nice selection of music that we would gladly hear more of. At the end of the day, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is a trip and a half. The willingness to try something new and run wild with the concept in mind. The Echoes mechanic adds so much to the overall proceedings and allow you to strongly think outside the box. Yes, there are frustrating elements, such as the selection of echoes through the scroll menu. There are definitely ways that could have been done better, but those are technical matters that to a lesser degree drag down the game. With that said, we wanted to keep playing, because we felt rewarded at every step of the adventure. Sure, that may result in losing your way once in a while, but ultimately, isn't that what The Legend of Zelda is all about? And with that in mind, our brutally honest score for The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is a very strong 92 out of 100. Are you picking up The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom? And if not, also be sure to say why in the comment section down below, as I believe this game definitely deserves far more attention than it is getting. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, as far more The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and far more Nintendo videos are on the way. Last but not least, a big thanks to you for watching, and to all our patreon.com/comearound patrons. Special shoutouts go to Roa producers Zach Johnson and JC Funk, and heroes Holly Wolf, Cheryl, and Garrett Hoy. your rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.